In other news, what do we have? We have the announcement. Jake Paul, he is back in action. He will be taking on another professional boxer, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Yeah, so listen, I'm not reading much into that, but I'm sure that's going to be a Netflix special. And, you know, Jake Paul, he does numbers. So, yeah, we will see. Like, you know, Jake Paul's career, you know, man, what can I say, bro? Like, Mike Tyson, 58, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Chavez Jr., you know, not really, not a world beater. You know, this guy's talking about fighting Canelo and Anthony Joshua. You know, so what, he's going to fight Chavez Jr. and then fight Anthony Joshua next year? Yeah, I think that was a publicity stunt. I'll believe it when I see it, you know, announced. But, you know, I just don't think he's going to fight anyone legit. And that's where it's at. And maybe he knows, maybe his team knows, they obviously know the level that he's at, and they're not willing to take that risk. But go and fight KSI. I think that's the fight to make. You know, wrap that up once and for all. And then Jake Paul is doing phenomenal things for women's boxing. You know, we obviously have the trilogy between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano, and he's signed a whole host of female talent, which is doing wonders, and it's going to do wonders for, you know, women's boxing. So credit to him on that note. Moving on from that, we have Floyd Mayweather. You always hear drips of information, but now it all seems to be coming in waves. I remember not too long ago, you know, you had the money team employees, you know, who were, you know, saying that there was not much money being distributed within a team and they weren't actually getting paid. Don't know if that's been resolved or not, but you know, 50 Cent has been hot on Floyd Mayweather's, you know, news and his case, and just making it very public and making everyone aware of Floyd's apparent financial struggles. And, you know, I'll get into why I'm even talking about this and covering this, because like, you know, it just seems that Floyd Mayweather needs the money. You know, and if that is the case, you know, I'm potentially, you know, maybe hoping Floyd Mayweather may actually step back into the ring for a credible fight if that is the case. And reason why I'm saying this is because, you know, we've got the Riyadh season. The Saudis are invested in combat sports and particularly boxing as it stands. And, you know, there is a lot of money on the table. And with the likes of Canelo and Terence Crawford fighting later on this year, could we potentially possibly see the return of Floyd Mayweather to fight the winner, you know, for a humongous, monumental payday? Can you imagine? Maybe. Floyd left with his O intact. You know, many have come, you know, in the departure of Floyd. They came as the quote unquote heir apparent to the Floyd Mayweather, to the Philly shell, to the shoulder roll. You know, there were many who tried and failed. Some who were, you know, who still have their O, but without taking the necessary risks to prove if they can, you know, reach that monocle of greatness that Floyd Mayweather did. Because obviously, let's put it, facts being facts, you know, for many and for most, Floyd is up there in their top 3 as the best to ever do it. Whether you like his style or not, you know, his feats, you know, were phenomenal in terms of what he accomplished. You know, yeah, we can go over, you know, the choice and the timing of certain fights, etc. Some would say that the Pacquiao fight came too late, whatever. You know, it's a case of, you know, bottom line is he got it done and he got himself into a position where he was such a strong figure. He was able to be the A side in all of his fights. So, to entice Floyd to come back, Floyd knows that there would be huge money on the table. And if he needs the money, it means he would have to put that O on the line. And, you know, being out of the ring as long as he's been, could he really come back and pick up a win against an active or relatively active Terence Crawford, or a very active, you know, Canelo Alvarez, and both of these guys who are in the peak of their powers, you know, well, there and thereabouts, you know, but like in comparison to Floyd, who hasn't had a competitive real matchup for how long now. So, that would be massive. Canelo with the one of two opportunities to, redeem one of his losses on his record, and still a potential Bivol fight down the line to kind of like, cement. He's got what, a 4-fight deal with Turkey, Al Sheikh, and Saudi for Riyadh season. A fight with Floyd would be huge. Crawford versus Floyd would be fantastic. And I think, going back to Canelo, I think, Canelo's never had any kind of inkling or desire of going down in weight, but I think he would do whatever he could to make a possible catch weight to fight Floyd and get a rematch and get that redemption. So that would be phenomenal. And as for Terence, Terence is not really a natural 160 pounder or 68 pounder. So, he had one fight at 154. Potentially he may not go down to 147, but somewhere around that 154, 153. I don't know what Floyd is, walking around at the moment, but the guy always stays in shape, and every time you see him, he's relatively in shape, but he's just not in fighting shape. But man, listen, so the odds would be stacked against Floyd, but it would be that huge payday to entice him to come back. However, if Floyd was ever to come back and get the victory after being out for so long, I would have to put him at number 1. I think it would be the most phenomenal achievement in boxing, up there with the likes of the late great George Foreman, who reclaimed the heavyweight title at the age of in his late 40s. Along there with the likes of Bernard Hopkins, what those guys did later on in the very latter stages of their career. This would cement Floyd as number 1. I think you just couldn't beat it, because not only that, it's the way boxing has relatively changed in styles per se. A lot of the defensive style hasn't worked. The shift has been, you have to have a certain level of offense, and ring generalship to control, and no one could ever negate and nullify opponents like Floyd. And like I said, the heir apparents that tried, aka the likes of the Devin Haney's, etc., tried and failed. Although Haney's got his O back, which he he was quite proud about. But many have come and many have tried, and many and all have failed to do what Floyd's done. You're looking at the likes of Tank, who now has a draw, which is a minor blemish on his record. But it'll be interesting to see how the rematch with Lamont Roach goes. But, none have done it like Floyd. And for him to come back and win against the likes of a Terence Crawford or against the likes of a Canelo, at this stage of his career, where, Canelo, he was a boy and now he's a man. Listen, it would be a phenomenal achievement. So, man, listen, Turkey, get on the phone. Call Floyd, tell him, listen, we can solve all your financial woes, because it would be incredible. But listen, guys, that's all for me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Floyd will be back? Do you think Floyd should come back? And do you really buy all these kind of financial rumors that are kind of swirling surrounding Floyd and, his alleged, real estate investments that apparently never were? Man, remains to be seen. But listen, guys, I will be back. Like I said, we're heading into a huge fight week with the clash of the bloodlines. The Eubanks versus the Benz. Hopefully, I know Chris Eubank Sr. He's come out and he's lambasted his son. Called him a disgrace, etc. Whatnot. Man, listen, it's sad to see. And hopefully, his family or someone talks sense to him, and he just shows up to support his son. But listen, guys, I will be back. But in the meantime, stay blessed, stay locked, stay tuned, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.